guys, welcome back to Rail Chief 74 here on the channel, and in today's video we are going to be taking a closer look at some of the TMCC equipped locomotives that I have in my collection. Now I was originally going to add a lot of the diesels and the motorized units for this video too, but I realized that the video was starting to become a little too long, so I'm going to be saving those for a separate video down the road. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. I hope you guys will enjoy. Okay, so starting off with our first engine here is actually the first TMCC locomotive that I ever owned in the collection. This is the 1996 Lionel New York Central silver variation of the Commodore Vanderbilt. Now, when it was released around 1997, there was some controversy surrounding the paint job for this engine. But I think that controversy has started to die down a little, considering on how beautiful this locomotive is aged. And I actually got this for Christmas back in 2004 by my grandmother, but unfortunately after a while I had to sell the engine due to some parts that kind of broken off and that were far beyond repair. But thankfully a couple of years later, in 2021, I found the engine on trains.com at a very decent price, so I'm very happy to obtain it. And the only thing that's missing on this version of the Commodore Vanderbilt is the top grille near the smokestack. But other than that, it's a very beautiful piece, and this locomotive does provide you with some very impressive details and features, such as a mechanical smoke unit, a headlight, magnet traction, a 700E chassis, an AC Postwar motor, a die-cast tender, a backup light in the tender, die-cast metal trucks, as well as a metal coupler at the rear end. Now you actually do have the option to swap out the plunger coupler that this engine comes with the electronic metal coupler that is provided with the engine. And Lionel also does provide you with the tutorial on how to do this in the instruction manual. But enough of me babbling along, let's go ahead and take this engine for a spin around the layout. The next engine on the list here that I want to share with you all is this semi-scale model of the New York Central's 20th Century Limited Dreyfuss Hudson, numbered 5449 by K-Line. Now, like I mentioned before, this is a semi-scale model, which is a lot smaller than a premium-sized model locomotive, but it does have some very nice features and some very impressive detail on the outside of the engine boiler, as well as the tender. And this locomotive was made by K-Line around 2002, and it comes with Lionel TMCC command control and rail sounds, but it also does feature a headlight, a backup light in the tender, a smoke unit, a DC can motor, and a glowing firebox. Alright, now here is our next item, which kind of needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce it anyway. This is the Lionel Century Club 773 New York Central Hudson, made around the year 2000, and it's considered to be the last, or actually it's considered to be one of the last Lionel Hudsons made in America during that time, right before Lionel sold its equipment to Korea and China. And this was definitely one of the most one-of-a-kind locomotives of the time for the Century Club. Now, Lionel introduced a couple of other Century Club engines, such as the GG1, which I'll get back to a little later, the 671 Pennsylvania turbine, the 2333 New York Central F3s, and the 726 Berkshire. Now, with the 773 Hudson here, this was the last locomotive that was made for the first Century Club, right before Lionel jumped over to Century Club 2. Now, I already did a review on this locomotive a little while back, so if you want to go check out that review, I'll make sure to leave a link down below. And the one thing I did forget to mention in that review is that in the box for the locomotive, if you wanted to have a more prototypical scale-looking pilot truck in the front, Lionel did provide you with that exact truck with the locomotive in case you wanted to swap out the pilot truck that the engine comes with already. And just like with the Dreyfuss Hudson, which I showed you earlier before, it has TMCC, rail sounds, and the locomotive is decorated with a golden bell and whistle at the top of the boiler, or at the top of the locomotive, I should say. It's even got a front headlight, magnet traction, and a AC Postwar motor. Now our next locomotive here is the 771 460 Jersey Central Camelback, made around the year 2000 by Lionel. Now, unlike the 773 Hudson before, this locomotive was made in Korea, but it's still a pretty nice quality locomotive nonetheless. Now, like with the K-Line Dreyfuss Hudson, the engine does come with a front and backup light. It also comes with a DC cam motor and flywheel, tire traction. It is command equipped and has an electro coupler in the tender, just like with the other steam locomotives that I mentioned earlier. It also does come with tower comm and crew talk and rail sounds, just like with the other engines. And then finally, the locomotive has a glowing firebox when the engine starts up. Finally, just like with the 773, I did purchase this engine at the April York train meet of this year, so if you want to go check out that review as well, I'll make sure to leave that in the link down below as well. And now finally we have the last of the Mohicans here, which is another 773 Hudson locomotive, but not just any 773. This is the Postwar Celebration Series 773 Hudson, which came with the reproduction of the Super O freight set from 1964. Now, what's very ironic about this 773 versus the Century Club 773, even though the reproduction of the Super O set is a 773 Hudson, what's weird is they used the original 1950s 773 lettering, as well as using a Lionel Lines metal tender, and it's a little bit bigger than the original Lionel tender from 1950, because this tender here is more scale-like. And then for the Century Club 773 Hudson, they went with the semi-scale tender, but what's very ironic about that is that they used the old 1964 773 lettering for the cab. Now, this 773 Hudson is a little bit of an upgrade from the Century Club model. It comes with magnet traction, just like with the Century Club version. It does not come with a gold bell and whistle. Instead, it's actually nickel-plated, or silver, I should say. Some of the features on this engine are pretty much similar just like with the Century Club model. And the tender is a Rail Sounds tender, which I believe is 5.0, but I could be wrong on that. Now, unfortunately, I can't get this thing up and running as of right now. I just wanted to bring it out to show you guys anyway, but it does come with TMCC. The smoke unit is a fan-driven smoke unit inside the engine. It comes with a front headlight. It also does have a AC Postwar motor, just like with the Century Club and Commodore Vanderbilt. And then finally, the engine is provided with TowerCom, Crew Talk, and an electro operating coupler. Okay, guys, well, that about wraps it up for part one for today. And before we go ahead and wrap up the video here, I forgot to mention that I actually made a mistake on the date when I got the Commodore Vanderbilt. It was actually Christmas of 2005 when I got it. And then around 2006, I swapped it out for the post-war Celebration Series 773 in place of the Commodore Vanderbilt. But like I mentioned earlier, as fate would have it, I reunited with the Commodore Vanderbilt once again a couple of years later. So it was definitely very fortunate of me to run into the engine once again and purchase it. And I'm really satisfied with a lot of the TMCC steamers that I have so far in my collection. And who knows, I might be out for more in the future, you never know. But that about wraps it up for today's episode. As always, my name is Mike. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, be sure to hit the notification bell down below for any other project that I upload. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in part two.